I think that this weekend was rich as far as meltdowns, epic meltdowns. And for my money, it's always the same culprits. It's always the same exact people, the same exact teams. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan right now, you deserve an extra rich, meltdown Monday here on Sports Journey. So, Dez Bryant, Jason Garrett, Bill Callahan, Tony Romo, Jerry Jones, if you're in the building, the Cowboys defense. Every team has the makings of a meltdown, but it's always a couple of individual characters. Well, yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys whole team was responsible for giving us another epic meltdown Monday.
Meltdown Monday.
I've got to tell you, folks, watching that game yesterday, there was no way that the Dallas Cowboys should have lost that game to Green Bay. No way whatsoever. When you're up 26-3 at halftime, you're supposed to put a team away. I called a good friend of mine, Philip Daniels, used to play here in D.C. with the Redskins. Called him and said, at the end of that game, whoever's calling the plays for the Dallas Cowboys should be fired on the spot. That was atrocious. There's no other way to explain what today is. Meltdown Monday. If you're Bill Callahan, I want to ask him personally, why do you feel the need to pass the ball over and over and over and over, especially when you know your quarterback's a guy that has a tendency to throw games away? I'm not going to sit here and call Tony Romo a choke artist because I don't even put yesterday's game on him. Yeah, he threw 2 costly interceptions, one, late in the game. But why was there even allowed to be a check down? Obviously, he decided, and you heard his head coach, Jason Garrett, come out and say it. Some people said Jason Garrett threw him under the bus. I don't think he threw him under the bus, but the play was a running play that Tony Romo changed to a passing play. That falls to me back on the offensive coordinator as well. I was told here in D.C. by some players that the Redskins playbook has some plays that don't allow for Robert Griffin or Kirk Cousins. We're going to talk about that in a second as well. But they're not allowed to check down. They're not allowed to audible. The play doesn't have a plan B. As hard as that is to believe, because when I heard that, I was like, you're kidding me. Maybe there is some credence to Trent Cole calling out their plays. However, you're not supposed to check that play down. And in the situation with the Dallas Cowboys, when you're up and you've seen your defense porous all day, in the second half, the Cowboys defense, 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns for Green Bay. And we're talking about not even their backup quarterback. Matt Flynn came in off the street cold a couple weeks ago in Green Bay, and now he looks like he's resurgent. He looks like the guy that got the big free agent contract to let him up to Seattle. We all know it didn't work out there. We all know it didn't work out in Oakland as well. But right now he's playing good football. But he's not playing that great of football that he should have been able to lead that team with major injuries across the board, that he should be able to lead that team down the field 5 straight times on the Dallas Cowboys defense. So that was an epic meltdown. Then, to top it off, you see a player that everyone talks about. He plays with such passion. He loves the game. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I look at Dez Bryant as a self-centered, ego-maniacal player. He understands the cameras are on him at all times. Make no mistake about it. Does he play with passion? If that's what you want to call passion. See, I look at a guy like Calvin Johnson and says he plays with passion. The last time I looked, Calvin Johnson's not throwing cups on the ground. He's not cursing at teammates. He's not walking off the field early either. That's not passion, folks. That's selfishness. And for the guy to come out and then say, on his Twitter account right there, that's guilt. Because I'm sorry, folks, not to date myself. I have a Twitter account. I'll give it to you in a second. You can see it right there on the screen. But I don't run to my Twitter account to advertise to the world my beliefs and everything. I just don't think that's what it's for. Dez Bryant goes on Twitter after the game and says, I walked back to the locker room because I was emotional. It had nothing to do with my teammates. We had it. We fought and we didn't finish. Yeah, there's a lot of we's in there, but I looked and there's also a lot of I's in there too. I walked back to the locker room because I was emotional. That's not acceptable. If the Dallas Cowboys want to make an example out of Dez Bryant for how you do not overstep your boundaries, young man, he should be fined. He should be suspended. I think that action in the heat of defeat, I still think that there's something that needs to be done about that. There are ramifications for that, because I don't care what anyone says. There are players on that team that, even though they know he's a great talent, they're also tired of the antics. They're tired of it. And when you see this happening over and over and over, to me, I don't want to hear from any Cowboy fan out there that this guy plays with passion. Yeah, I think he loves the game. I really do. But I also think he loves himself some himself. He loves Dez Bryant. And this is very fitting for the Dallas Cowboys, because the Dallas Cowboys have had this show before. We remember T.O., and to a lesser extent, we remember this with Michael Irvin. Wide receivers that would blow up on you in a heartbeat. Both those guys, I think, are Hall of Famers. Obviously, Michael Irvin's already in. I think T.O. will get in, regardless of if you liked him individually. The guy was a great football player, a Hall of Fame player. Dez Bryant has the makings to follow right on in suit and be another one that goes in the Canton. But you're not going to make it in today's world, considering that everything you do, every move you make is on social media. Every move you make is out there in public. This does not look becoming of Dez Bryant. And someone, if there is someone that has the you-know-whats to tell him, somebody needs to shut that down, because it's getting out of hand. This is a distraction right now for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, that was a game that they should have won, that would have really propelled them and put them in the driver's seat as far as the NFC East. The Eagles go out and lose yesterday, so the Cowboys had a golden opportunity with games coming up here in D.C. and then back home against the same team that we're talking about, the Philadelphia Eagles. They put themselves in a precarious situation that I don't know if they're going to be able to recover from. And when you see the icing on the cake, your best player walking off the field like that, I don't know. Call me old school, call me conservative. I just think that's bad for the game. I think it's bad for their organization. I think it's bad for fans today. And that's why, again, to me, you had to mention the Dallas Cowboys literally as far as where they stand today. Good football was played across the board yesterday. But I think the NFL has a problem with a couple things. One, I think the officiating has been porous over the past few weeks. And I mean, I really start to wonder, you know, you remember some of these officials. These are the guys that you know, held out, so to speak. This was the lockout was over for a while. I mean, you think about all these different scenarios where you have the best officials in the NFL literally handling every game. And they're starting to make some drastic mistakes. They're starting to make mistakes that are, the problem is, they're visible to the average fan now. I'm not talking about questionable hits, because that's going to be a problem now with the new rules changes. Defensive players are just out there on an island. They're hitting whatever they can, and they're not trying to injure guys, but they have to get a guy down. So now you're seeing guys taking guys' knees out. You're seeing superstar players hurt. That's not good for the game. When you don't have faces on the field, you can't market stuff. And I understand that the NFL, you know, can market teams and traditions, but everyone wants to see Aaron Rodgers on the field. Everyone wants to see Rob Gronkowski on the field. Everyone wants to see Adrian Peterson on the field. All these guys did not get hit or hurt, you know, with dirty hits on them, but they're still hurt nevertheless. So, listen, folks, I mean, it's a lot. You know, I see all this information flashing in front of me. You see some of the stuff here on the screen as far as, you know, the schedule for tonight in the world of college basketball, the NFL, the NBA. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're even going to talk about some boxing, because I'm going to ask the question, is boxing officially dead? Is it dead? Adrian Broner, guy that a lot of boxing fans, including myself, felt like had the potential to be the heir apparent as far as a must-see fighter, you know, outside of Floyd Mayweather. He got his socks rocked literally on Saturday. And it just led me to believe that boxing right now is in a world of hurt.
Let me tell you some of the reasons people get into trouble with credit cards. A job loss or salary cut, an unexpected expense, a divorce, a business loss, or even helping a family member or friend in need. At Consolidated Credit, we understand that debt problems are not about overspending. It's about emergencies and unexpected situations. Consolidated Credit has helped over 5 million people, just like you. The options for getting out of debt have never been better. We can reduce your interest rates, cut your monthly payments, and help you get out of debt fast. The time to call Consolidated Credit is now. There are a lot of ways to get into trouble with debt. There's only one trusted way to get out: Consolidated Credit. When debt is the problem, we're the solution.
Call Consolidated Credit now.
Call toll-free 1-800-426-6016. That's 1-800-426-6016. Call now.
Medical emergencies.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I'm calling for help right now. Sharon, we received a smoke signal coming from your kitchen. Get out now. We're calling the fire department.
Home invasion. Emergencies away from home.
I'm trying to get to my car, but it's still a ways away.
I'm right here and we'll stay on the line with you and we can contact the police if necessary.
And you can have this protection away from home for just $19.95 per month.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-830-1951. That's 1-800-830-1951. Call now 1-800-830-1951. For a free brochure, call 1-800-830-1951.
Welcome to Hooters. Right this way. Wednesday is Wings Day at Hooters. Get 10 boneless wings and fries for just $6.99.
Are you behind on your mortgage payments? Are you worried about home foreclosure? Does it seem like the bank has no interest in helping you save your home and there is nowhere to turn? Then the Homeowners Relief Line could be your answer. Homeowners Relief Line can help save your home. We specialize in foreclosure assistance, and that's all we do. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, being threatened with foreclosure, have been denied a loan modification, or been the victim of a predatory loan, it's critical that you call Homeowners Relief Line now. Homeowners Relief Line has a network of attorneys, and our agents are available to speak to you right away. Remember, if you are behind on your mortgage payments, Homeowners Relief Line can help stop the foreclosure process. Call today before it is too late. New laws are in effect that may save your home. So call Homeowners Relief Line now.
Call 800-749-8070. That's 800-749-8070.
NCAA women's basketball. All day, every day, our game. Filling it up, knocking them down, and bringing it home. It's basketball at its purest. Family fun and great entertainment, there's nothing like it. NCAA women's basketball. All day, every day, our game.
You know, these guys want to win, they want to be successful. But I think that there's a shortcoming in the organization as far as scouting talent. I think there's a shortcoming in the organization as far as putting all the pieces together. And to me, that ultimately lies at the head of Mike Shanahan. People are taking sides here. You know, they're starting to, ask the question, is it him? Is it Dan Snyder, the owner? I saw, a publication today. I'm not going to mention to give them airtime, but publication mentioned today. Again, the same question we've heard here for years. Is Dan Snyder the worst owner in sports? And I think it's a little unfair to keep bringing that up, because I go back to this. Dan Snyder has given a lot of money out to a lot of players, to a lot of coaches. A lot more than I probably would if I were in his position. Call me cheap, call me fickle, whatever. But he's paid a lot of people. A lot of people have gotten fat off Dan Snyder. You think of everything that he's brought in as far as Mike Shanahan. Everything he brought into Mike Shanahan's very words. We need a practice facility. Bam, you get a bubble put up. We need better facilities out there. Bam, you get that. We need to move training camp away from here. Bam, you get that too. So the Redskins have made a big profit since Mike Shanahan has been here as well, as far as things that they've worked out. The state of Virginia, paying them a couple $1 million per year to renovate their facility if you come to Richmond, which they did. And by the way, they had a facility built down there in Richmond specifically for them. So they're making money. We know that. I have thought about this, am I taking sides here? I think I'm going to go the way of the owner, who I agree with, as far as he's given everything and what has been given back. What has been given back is your franchise player, who you've given up a lot of picks for, injured. Injured. And yeah, people can say, oh, well, he played every game this year until he was unceremoniously yanked. But at the end of the day, that was not the same player that we saw last year. That knee injury, wasn't 100%. His leg was not 100%. I give him a lot of credit for coming back and playing, period. Because when he went down last year, people were like, oh, this guy might miss the whole 2013 season. No, he didn't. He played every game. Maybe he rushed himself back. He has to be held accountable for that to himself, because he was not the same player. And his brand has suffered because of that. Make no mistake about it. There are people in this very town right now that are turning their back on Robert Griffin III, which I think is a little bit too much. I think obviously he may have done some things wrong or even said some things wrong, but to vilify this guy the way people have overnight. Those were the same people that were lining up to see him, lining up to get jerseys, lining up and saying that the Redskins now have that guy. And now they're turning their back on him. That's called a fair weather fan. That's not the way it's supposed to be done. For Kirk Cousins to play yesterday, again, I think he played well. But at the end of the game, I saw a coaching decision I didn't like. I'm not understanding why you go for two when a team fought hard to put themselves in position to send the game into overtime. Yeah, some people may say, hey, you gamble, sometimes you lose. And they did. Some people say, why not go for the win? I say don't go for it in that situation specifically because you're playing a bad football team who you were moving the ball up and down the field against. You could have gotten the ball back first in overtime and probably gone down the field again because your team was hot and just won the game outright. I also look at it in this situation. If you're a Redskins fan and you're hoping to get picks for Kirk Cousins, don't you want to see him in every possible way get as many snaps under center as he could? The kid was hot, down the stretch. I want to see him in overtime now, because now that's more game tape to show another team, another coach. Look at him. Hey, you saw him in the 2 minute. You saw him take this team down the field, send the game into overtime. Hey, look at this film. You see him in overtime, go right down the field and win us the game. Well, you didn't get a chance to see that. That's just me. That's not saying that that's a bad coaching decision. But it's little head scratchers like that that have been the norm here in Washington. And it's very ironic that you talk about the Redskins and you talk about, when we started the show today, you talk about the Dallas Cowboys all in the same breath. It's almost like they need each other. Last year, they're both battling final game of the season to win the division, get in the playoffs on national TV, Sunday night game. That's the way it's supposed to be between those two teams who at one point had a heated rivalry. It's not the same anymore. If you're 30 years older, you remember. You remember you couldn't focus at work. You remember, like I did when I was in school, you couldn't think about school. It was Dallas week. Everything in D.C. shut down. Now, if you're 30 or younger, you don't know what that is. You just see the old black and white footage. You see the grainy color footage from the 80s. You see, the old guard, basically. And I've had a problem with that with the Redskins in general for their marketing. Yeah, they market and they make money, but I do sometimes feel that they parade the old players around a little bit too much. Is it honoring history? Absolutely, and I'm all for that. But at the same time, if you're constantly shoving down people's throats championships that you won in the 80s and in 91, it's 2014 in the making here. That's a long time ago. That is a super long time ago. That means you haven't had a lot of success. That's what that means. So if you're constantly parading around the same central figures all the time, there's a difference between if you're, let's just switch sports here. If you're the Red Sox, and I remember up until his death, you saw the late, Ted Williams, great, one of the greatest hitters of all time, if not the greatest in Major League Baseball. Of course they will push him out there. Of course. But we're talking about a 60, 70 year span. Now, if you're the Redskins, you're talking about 30 years. 30 years. Now it's starting to look a little, if you're 30 or under, you don't know who these guys are. You don't know who the John Riggins and Joe Theismanns and the Doug Williams. Yeah, you may know them from a historical standpoint if you're a diehard sports fan, and there are young people. I was one of them. Young people, and I know several today that know their history. They're historians too. Yeah, you know who these figures are, but you don't remember them. You remember what you've heard about them, and you saw some footage because it's constantly pumped in your face, but there's a problem with that. I do think that the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins right now can't get out of the way of their own shadows with each other. When the Redskins stink, guess what? The Cowboys stink. When the Redskins are decent as they were last year, the Cowboys were decent as they were last year. And right now it's the same situation. The Cowboys are right now starting to hear grumblings as far as their coach. After yesterday's debacle, after their meltdown, now you're wondering if Jerry Jones is going to back those words that he said just a couple of weeks ago that he's all in with Jason Garrett. Well, you know what? I don't think so. Because if the Cowboys lose this week against the Washington Redskins, if they lose against the Philadelphia Eagles and they do not make the playoffs, that's 3 years in a row, or 4 years, I'm sorry, something's wrong with that. Because when you look at the talent on that team, it's there. You have a very good quarterback. Is he an elite quarterback? No, not in my opinion. Elite means you're in the top 5. Tony Romo's not in the top 5. But is he a top 10, top 15 quarterback? Sure he is. Anyone that says he's not, they don't understand what they're looking at. The guy can make all the throws. He can do everything except win. I don't necessarily think that's a Tony Romo issue. I think it's a Dallas Cowboys issue. You look at their wide receiver position. I mean, they have a bona fide stud. Yeah, I think he's a bit of a prima donna, and I called him out in the first segment of the show. You can go back and check it out. But he's a great talent, one of the top receivers in the game today. You look at their running back spot. I think if DeMarco Murray were to have carried the ball more, not just yesterday, but in his career when he's been healthy, he's a very good running back. And I think he could be one of the backs in the league that people say, you know what, DeMarco Murray is that guy. He's really that talented. But the Cowboys don't want to run the football. You look at their tight end position, Hall of Famer, Jason Witten. He's a Hall of Famer, whether you like him or not. So you look at their team, they've got talent everywhere. On the defensive side of the ball, they've got perhaps one of the best defensive players in the game today when healthy, Sean Lee. They have a bona fide Hall of Famer, DeMarcus Ware. I mean, they have talent on both sides of the ball. Brandon Carr, I think, is one of the next up-and-coming young corners. A really good corner. I like his game quite a bit. They've got talent all across the board. But again, with them, it's the same thing that happens here in D.C. It boils down to the organizational structure of those teams. Do they have the right people in place to call the shots? Do they have the right people in place to shut down things that should not be happening? And the answer to me is a resounding no on both sides of the ball. This is what you're going to get. But as long as Jerry Jones, as long as continue to make money, it's never going to be an issue. It's never going to be an issue. That's what we're going to have to deal with. Lots of other games happened yesterday. A couple playoff implicated games. Miami Dolphins' big win over the New England Patriots. And I look at that team, Joe Philbin, doing a great job as the head coach down there. You look at some of these younger teams that are now winning and starting to believe, Miami Dolphins being one of them. There's a game tonight between two playoff caliber teams. The Baltimore Ravens, defending champions, clearly a shell of what they were. But at the same time, this is a team, through coaching, through organizational leadership, they've gotten better over and over and over. Every game you see them getting better. They're in playoff contention. If I told you that this team was going to be in playoff contention after what you saw on opening night against the Denver Broncos where they got blown up, you probably would say absolutely not. You look at Detroit. Jim Schwartz, a coach that I think is on the hot seat. They have to make the playoffs or I think his job is in jeopardy. I've been saying that for 2 years now. If you don't make the playoffs with the talent on that football team, your job should be in jeopardy. You're talking about a quarterback that's thrown for over 5,000 yards the last 2 seasons. You're talking about perhaps the best player in the game, period. I don't care what position you're talking about. Calvin Johnson might be right now the face of the NFL. You're talking about a former Heisman Trophy winner. Excuse me. It's taken from him. Sorry, Reggie. Yeah, we know he's the Heisman Trophy winner back at USC. He had to turn it back in, blah, blah, blah. We won't get into that. But we're talking about a dynamic running back. This team has talent across the board, defensively. Ndamukong Suh, a great defender. You're talking about Nick Fairley, a great defender. They've got talent on both sides of the ball. And for them to possibly miss the playoffs again, I got to tell you, I think that there needs to be some heads rolling. And that's what I was talking about in the first segment when I meant the NFL has a problem right now. The problem is, one, the officiating is not up to par right now. It's pretty bad. And secondly, which I think is a really big glaring problem right now, I think the coaching has taken a step back. And let me reiterate on this more. Let me really break this down for you. If you are right now, if you are one of the young coaches that was given an opportunity in the offseason, remember we said 8 coaching changes made last year, 7 coaches in their first year coaching as far as head coaching. Yeah, I understand Bruce Arians, did a great job last year in Indy, excuse me, filling in for Chuck Pagano. But I'm talking about his gig. This is the first time for 7 of those 8. Andy Reid obviously came from Philly, so he's a head coach. Obviously it doesn't count. He doesn't count against those 8. But if you look at all 7 of those guys, I've seen some really good coaching jobs with teams that don't have a whole lot of talent. You look at the job in Jacksonville right now, I got to tell you, that's coaching. That's a team that's gotten better as the season's progressed. You look at San Diego, big win against Denver on Thursday. I mean, what more can you ask? Mike McCoy doing a great job out there. They've gotten better as the season's progressed. This is what I'm talking about. What the NFL's problem is. The problem is a lot of owners, and I think we can accuse one right here in D.C. of this, they're not doing their due diligence to find what those teams have found. You have to find the next great young mind in the game. The game is changing. If you look at the NFL right now, the NFL's gone to more of a college structure. I mean, they're spreading the offenses out right now. And with the new rules changes that have been put in, it's set up for offenses to succeed. You're going to see, variations of college football now in the NFL. That's why you see these young quarterbacks come right in off the street, basically played, a couple months removed from playing their final college football game, and they're not waiting like the old days. They're coming in from day one starting and being successful because of the type of offenses that they're running. Years ago, when you came in as a quarterback, I don't care if you were the number 1 pick in the draft, you waited. A lot of times, you saw guys wait 2-3 years before they hit the field. And I understand that was a big debate back then because the Troy Aikmans of the world didn't get that opportunity. but it helped him out in the long run to play right away. So, you're going to get a different argument there from different scouts, from different coaches. But my point is, you saw Troy Aikman struggle mightily the first 2-3 years of his career. Had some success here and there. But you're seeing guys coming in. Look at last year's class. You had Robert Griffin III. You had Andrew Luck. You had Russell Wilson. All make the playoffs as rookies. Now you go to this year. You see some of these other young quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill has his team in contention to make the playoffs. Russell Wilson in the playoffs. Andrew Luck in the playoffs. Better yet, they're in the playoffs and they're going to win their divisions. They're going to win, and really feel good about their chances going far into these playoffs. I think that the league right now is caught, almost stuck in the past. If you want to find the next great young quarterback, coach, do your due diligence. I remember the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple years back, 5 years ago, took a lot of heat for hiring an unknown guy named Mike Tomlin. He was unknown to fans, but around the league, coaches knew who he was and they respected his mind. But when he was given that head coaching job, I had a friend, good friend of mine, from Pittsburgh, born and raised, hated when that happened. He literally wanted to find the nearest bridge. He is literally like, who is Mike Tomlin? What are they doing? Had nothing to do with color or anything like that for anyone who thinks that's where we're going. No, it was just that you're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're talking about one of the top organizations in the NFL as far as how you run properly an organization. Well, you have to give the Rooneys even more credit for what they did when they pulled the trigger and brought this young guy in, because they knew what they were doing. They did their due diligence. He wowed them in their meetings. And look at the results. Yeah, you can say, what are the results? The results are 2 Super Bowls. The results are they're a stable organization. The results are yesterday, a team that's not making the playoffs beat the brakes off a team that is making the playoffs, that had the chance to become the number 2 seed in the AFC. That's still called coaching. That's still called guys playing hard for that coach. And that's what I'm saying here. Am I all over the board today? Maybe so. But this is something that's just been irking me. It's been bugging me for a while, because I truly believe that the Washington Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys to be the 2 most lucrative teams in the NFL by a landslide, for them to struggle the way they do, for things to happen on the field the way they do, for things to happen in the front office the way they do, I think the fans need to start holding their organizations accountable, because fans in Pittsburgh would not tolerate this. The coaching staff in Pittsburgh would not tolerate this. Remember this year, Pittsburgh started off really bad. Mike Tomlin said, hey, no cell phones, no video game playing here out at the facility. And you saw them turn it around. There comes a time where you need somebody that can hit the players mentally, can stimulate them, make them want to play. And I don't think the Redskins have that. I understand there are going to be some guys that are going to stand up for Mike Shanahan because he's done one thing well here in D.C. He's found some unknown players. Some of his draft picks have really worked out. Jordan Reed is another guy that, Mike Shanahan is going to be able to come out and say, hey, I found Jordan Reed. Hey, last year I found Alfred Morris. Okay, yeah, you did. But you also brought in some really bad free agents. You've also drafted some really bad players. And some of the players that you did draft that are deserving of playing time, you haven't given it to them for whatever reason. So, to me, that's the mess that is right here in D.C. That's the mess that's in Dallas. When we come back, we won't talk about Dallas. We won't talk about the Washington Redskins. We'll get your thoughts on some other things that happened. Week 15 NFL recap when we come back right here with myself, Lake Lewis.
If you're disabled and unable to work, pay attention to the following message.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who are disabled and unable to work, you may be entitled to disability benefits through Social Security. Receiving benefits is your right if you suffer from a physical or mental disability. Whether you're applying for the first time or you've already been denied, we can help. You'll be matched up with an advocate who will evaluate your situation, handle your application, deal with Social Security for you, and handle all appeals. Best of all, there's no fee until you receive your benefits. To get started, call the number on your screen now. And keep in mind, there are a vast number of conditions that make you eligible for disability benefits and dozens of additions that you may not be aware of. So if you're disabled and unable to work, call the Citizens Disability Helpline today for a free, no-obligation consultation.
Call 1-800-735-0219. Call now.
Imagine with a simple push of a button, you could be on your way to getting firm, sculpted abs and a sexy waistline with the Contour Core Sculpting System. It's the breakthrough technology that requires no machines, no getting on the floor, no stress, and no strain.
Contour.
The Contour is the real deal.
The secret is Contour's exclusive auto-active muscle toning technology, the digital breakthrough that automatically targets all your abdominal muscles, including your upper abs, lower abs, obliques, and even that stubborn lower belly. Thermographic testing proves Contour activates your entire core. The Contour Core Sculpting System comes with a one-size-fits-all Contour Core Belt, electronic controller with custom digital settings, batteries, and a 1-year warranty, plus an instructional guide and sensible eating plan. And it's all yours to try for 30 days for just $14.95. There's never been an easier, more effective way to get great-looking abs. So call and order right now.
Health insurance update.
This just in for all uninsured Americans with or without pre-existing conditions. The recent health care bill will not take effect until at least 2014, leaving families and individuals lacking health insurance with no immediate solution to their concerns. Meanwhile, medical problems continue to be the #1 cause of bankruptcies. Here's the good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide affordable health insurance for all uninsured Americans, and yes, uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Call the number on your screen now, and in less than 10 minutes, you could receive a choice of affordable plans from the Hotline Network. This is not a discount card. You will have access to doctors, hospitals, dental care, infant care, and emergency services. Call the Health Insurance Hotline now and get you and your family covered today.
Call 800-794-1817. That's 800-794-1817. Call now.
Are you stressed over credit cards and other debts? Maybe through no fault of your own? Imagine how it would feel to have that weight lifted right off your shoulders. Well, here's some good news from America's trusted name in debt relief. Care One providers have already helped over 4.5 million people in debt, and we can help you today. Just call this toll-free number to speak with a friendly representative, and in just minutes, you'll get your free debt relief analysis.
Regardless of your situation, Care One has an option for you.
We are there to help, and we do that in a way that's empathetic and supportive without judging their financial situation.
The credit card companies, I feel, are trying to keep you in debt and trying to keep it so you owe them money forever. And Care One is a good way to get you out of that and get you out of it fast.
A big burden was lifted off of my shoulders.
Care One threw me a lifeline.
Call Care One. They will help you.
Get debt relief from a company you can trust. Just call the toll-free number today.
Debt relief.